What up, YouTube? Got another video for you today. This is kind of asking you guys for help or your opinion on a couple things. Basically, if you guys watch the channel, you know I've recently acquired or got my Praetorian T. I've had this on order, or I had it on order, placed an order about 7 months ago. I got it. The turnaround time was 6 months, and it was like 6 months and a couple days. So as far as turnaround and all that stuff, it was exactly how Greg said and what was stated to me. So I'm happy with that. Just really happy with the knife. Had it for a couple weeks now, and still butter smooth. Carried it quite a bit. It's definitely broken in nicely. Can't get over the finishes. From handling it and using it, the finishes are starting to actually get darker, which I like that, so they're more pronounced. Still subdued, not just in your face, but more of a, you can start to see more of the details more and more as I go to handle. So that's really awesome. I love this knife, and I pretty much play with it every day. I keep it at home. I carry it with me quite often. It is a little bulky in the pocket, so not always my first thing to EDC and carry, but I do find carrying it quite a bit. I kind of rotate this in and out on my everyday deal. So my main question is that a lot of things are going on with Medford Knife and Tool. If you guys follow his video or his channel, which I suggest you do, pretty entertaining videos. Greg is very opinionated, and he's pretty much what you see is what you get. He has his feelings just right there on his shoulders. He carries them on his shoulder. You can tell exactly what the man's about. There is no question where he's coming from, and that's really cool. It's hard to find these days that someone's going to be straight up with you. So I highly suggest you follow his channel. A lot of cool stuff. Give you the heads up on new stuff coming on. A recent video he had, he's starting to like mass produce a bunch of his knives for Knife Center, and from what I see, only Knife Center. And then he had probably about, I kind of did like a rough count as I was watching the video, so it was probably about 80 knives or so going to Knife Center. And so I'm like thinking to myself, well, he's producing all these. I'm kind of wondering, is one of the things when I purchased this this Praetorian T, or ever wanted to purchase a Medford knife, is the fact that I still considered it a custom. Basically, there is a lot of machining that goes on there, but there's more so final finish, hands-on, custom, hands-on work. So I basically consider this a custom. Now, whether or not you consider it a custom or a mid-tech or whatever, I'm not going to get into that because that's kind of not what this video is about. But my concerns are lately is that he does offer the Praetorian T, on his website, and before he wasn't going to. When I ordered it, it wasn't something that was going to be regularly offered. I mean, the only other one at that time was the one-off that he gave away, and mine was the only other one, from my understanding. So now that he's starting to produce these, I'm kind of curious to see, with the amount that he's doing. If he did 80 knives for Knife Center, he's got all these other orders. I don't know his personal ins and outs or how many orders he actually has, but I know that he states that he personally grinds every knife on the way out, or he quality checks it and this and that or whatever, and I'm kind of concerned whether or not that's still a factor. Don't get me wrong, Greg's awesome people. I am going to buy more Medfords for sure. I am definitely. I really like his overbuilt type style of making knives and his way of doing things. I really like their stuff, and I'm going to acquire more. But I'm just kind of curious that now with all these that are coming out, let's say if he starts to place, if someone orders 100 Praetorians from this place over here, this wholesaler or this person, or let's say Knife Center orders 100 Praetorians, 50 of this, 50 of that, this other place orders about the same amount, and then there's a few hundred knives there, and then all his other orders and stuff like that, is he going to be able to have his hands on every knife that leaves there? Because I think that has a lot to do with how people categorize the custom. Now, as far as the way the knife functions and the quality that you get will not differ whether Greg ultimately ever has his hands on the finished product or not, because he's all over it. Everybody's trained the same. It isn't like, you know, you go into, you know, from what I understand, people don't sit there and apply for a job. Next thing they're doing is in grinding your knife. I mean, they're well trained. Everything is very consistent. The continuity of his product is the same throughout. So as far as quality, function, all that stuff, it will not change whether or not Greg has his hands on every knife or not. But, and I made a post on Killer Elites. He just got a Praetorian G, and I'll try to link that video to this, about he got a Praetorian G, and it kind of, I was making a comment and kind of went crazy on the comment as far as how long it was, and I really urged me to make this video. And what I'm getting at basically is, I bought this knife for $700. It's not a secret. This is what he charges for a Praetorian T. Now, I got the flame treatment. I really wanted it to make my own. That way, this knife would not be the same as any other out there, and it won't, because of the random flame pattern, the vulcanizing of the blade. It ensures the fact that this knife here cannot be duplicated. This vulcanizing on the blade, there's no way to replicate it. The flame on there, it's just, there's a bunch of little aspects and details to this knife that just simply cannot be done again exactly the same. So this is in fact a one-off, and that's exactly what I wanted. Now, but one of the things too, when you go ahead and purchase a knife for $700, or anything over $400, I believe should be a custom. It should be a custom, whether it's a mid-tech custom, however you want to categorize it, it should be a custom. Now, my question is to you guys, I'm sorry I'm being long-winded about this, is that if these knives now become mass-produced, and I'll give you two examples. Actually, what initially brought this whole thing about when I first started thinking about it was Ferrum Forge. If you don't know Elliot at Ferrum Forge, go sub his channel. He's awesome. He's a really cool guy. His videos are very entertaining. Kind of broke down the mid-tech and all this other thing deal to it. And the two companies that I know that he brought up were Strider, mixed Striders, the SMF and all that stuff, and then you got your Chris Reeve Sabenzas. Now they have custom versions of their knife, and then they have production versions of their knife. And you could clearly tell, if not by anything, the price tag on them, but just little things that are personalized or whatever between the customs and their production runs. Well, you know, even though you get a Sabenza 21, it's still a production knife, a high-end production knife, but it is a production knife. And I'm just reiterating some of the things that when watching Elliot's video or Ferrum Forge's video, what he did, and it made a lot of sense to me. And I suggest you watch that video too. I'm going to try to link all this stuff together. And with Strider, you can get a custom Strider or you can get an SMF. But when you get a normal SMF, don't fool yourself. It's not a custom SMF. It's basically just a production SMF. Now, the reason why I bring that up is now we have Greg Medford. This I know for a fact Greg had his hands on. I'm not going to go into details, but I know for a fact he personally had a lot to do with the manufacturing, producing, grinding, everything of this knife. I know that for a fact. But if you were to purchase one, let's say, because right now, if you go to this is not something. If you go to Knife Center right now, you can order a Praetorian G, or you can buy a Praetorian G and a Praetorian T, and in a week you'll have it. No more wait, no nothing. If you go to order something from Greg right now, you'll probably have, at the very minimum, a 6-month wait. But imagine it's more now because people know Greg's knives are very popular, they're very well made, and there's a lot of people in line to get them. So I don't think that way you're going to have to wait. Or you can go to Knife Center and buy one off. And he does this. This is not new. He posts videos on this or whatever. Now, as he starts to get into these bigger volumes of them, it's going to be really hard or next to impossible for him to have his hands on every knife. I mean, he could. He could figure out a way, or just really gets his logistics, in-house logistics going, where he can have and does the, if anything, the QC at the end or the grind or something where he personally touches it, and that will retain, in my opinion, the custom knife labeling to that. When it comes down to it, does it really matter as far as the performance of the knife goes? No, not at all. It all has to do with pride of ownership. And for me, if you guys know, I do knife reviews of low budget knives and this and that, and you know, I don't really buy a bunch of customs, but when I spend the money, I want to know that one of the things of the pride of ownership, which means a lot to me, that I add a lot of, you know, weight to, is the fact that it was a custom knife. If I'm going to spend that much money, it's going to be a custom knife. So my thing is now that they're being produced at this volume, is it in fact, and if he doesn't have his hands on it or anything, and it's just a production knife, to me, I would not want to purchase that knife. I would want to have something at that price range to do that. So, nothing going against Greg or what he's doing. I think it's great that he's expanding, he's becoming popular, more mainstream, and actually bringing in the money that he deserves, and he can make a way better, you know, he can make a living doing this, what he loves to do. I think that's great. But for me being a consumer, when I purchase a knife through him, I think now, what I'm getting at here, and I hate to, you know, I'm kind of all over the place. None of my videos are rehearsed. What I'm saying is, when I get this, I got the box, I got the knife. Inside this box, a bunch of the invoice, your card, or whatever. This can all be pretty much generalized or typical as far as what he does. My thing is the signature of authenticity on this knife, because I consider this was made in his old shop before he went and got the new shop and streamlined his and made it more of a production type of deal. This right here matters a lot to me. This right here, along with this, certifies the worth and the value of this knife. There's a signature behind it. Now, if every knife that he makes now, if for some reason, let's say, I don't know, this is just being thrown, I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on with Greg. It's not like I sit there and hang out, have beers with him, or I talk to him on the phone all the time. But if he produces a bunch of these knives, you know, a bunch of these knives, and he doesn't have his hands on them anymore, is there going to be a distinction of the value of the knife? I think that my knife, I would hope that this knife right here, that I waited 6 months for, and that I know 100% beyond a shadow of the doubt that Greg had his hands all over this, is valued more than maybe a knife, let's just say in the future, if he just produces so much that he doesn't have his hands on it, and he has a well-qualified knife smith, whatever you want to call it, a guy that's more than capable of producing a beautiful, someone who could go out on their own and make their own stuff, do it, you know, have them do it. I would like to think that this knife has more value because the maker actually had his hands on it. And my thing is I was kind of curious to see how you guys felt about that. And I don't think Greg Medford watches my videos at all. If for some reason he does, I'd love for him to respond to this and let me know. I don't want to bother him with a phone call or like that. And I feel that if I just would rather him do a video on it. But I think as he gets bigger, or as he's doing this stuff, a distinction definitely would need to be made between something that someone waits 6 to 12 months to get ordered to be personalized, should be identified and labeled as such to differentiate it from the stuff that he's sending. It should be different than the 50 basic Praetorian T's or Praetorian G's that are sent out. If you're waiting 6 months to get something personalized or something to make it your own, I think documentation should be there in order to prove the worth of that, because I believe there is more worth to that than your standard $600 Praetorian or whatever. So anyway, that's pretty much my little rant on this whole situation. I'm in love with this knife, still am. Really glad I got the smaller version than the giant, big, beefy Thai version, even though that's what I originally wanted, but it was definitely out of my financial means to get one. I'm very happy with this, and like I said, I am going to be purchasing more Medford knives in the future. There's a couple things that interest me that I know that are going to be coming out, and I'll definitely be getting more in the future. But that's just my little rant. I'd love I'd love to hear you guys' 2 cents on that. This is in no way trying to start anything or to take a jab or anything. It's not supposed to be negative at all to Greg Medford. I love what he does. I love what his designs are. I really think it's him as a character is just completely awesome. It matches everything he does. You can tell. It's just I really like the guy. He's straight up. What you see is what you get, and I really value that quality in people, and I think it's not found so often. His knife designs, his overbuilt his overbuilt style of designing his knives are awesome, and like I said, I will continue to purchase them. I just had a question or just to pretty much see what you guys thought about the situation and your 2 cents in on that. And that's pretty much it. Just like I said, it's the value of what I have here as far as function, form, function, style, whatever you want to call it. It will perform just. I imagine all his stuff that is done, whether he has his hands on it or not, will still be up to the same quality and standards as the one I have before you. But as far as the pride of ownership and the value I see in this knife, because this was personalized to such an extent for me, and I waited, and this was when this knife was made, it was in the full and complete, my name was on that piece of paper. This knife was going to be made for me. It wasn't grabbed out of a box of knives and being sent out to someone who ordered it with no name or nothing. I specifically wanted these features on this knife because that's the way I wanted it, and I think that adds more value to this knife than something that is just produced with no kind of intent or intention to fulfill somebody's request or desire for what their ending product was going to be or what they wanted to receive. That's pretty much it, guys. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I know this was a little longer video, but this is something I had on my mind, and I figured that you guys would have some kind of input or something to add to this that may kind of I just want to see your 2 cents in it. And I wish I could, I don't know if I should video response this to one of Greg's videos or something like that to have him answer it. I don't want to get into a phone call. I just don't have the time to really call him and to get into something like that. But I just would want to see what you guys think about the situation. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the support and tuning in on all the new subscribers. Thank you so much. You guys take it easy. Peace.